Zachary Zlog,
Here.
Ethan Crowdy,
Here.
Hazel Sparks. Here. Callum Willett,
Here.
Haley Inman. Here. Marissa Schultz. Here. Jonah Harper,
Here.
Warren Depot. Here. Kenzie Kerpinski. Here. Isabella Van Kirk. Here. Alex Emery,
Here.
Jackson Gamble.
Here.
Sharif Abed. Lori Sedova. Here. No. Is there anyone who I haven't called? I'm now looking for approval of the 09/23/2025 minutes in this agenda. Senator Lauren. Hearing a second, if it's the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Now for the Roberts Rules tip of the week. Division. When I say if it's the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted like I just did. During approval of the minutes and the 5-minute recess, approval of consent agenda and adjournment, you can call for division to make it a roll call vote. Now moving on to the general good and welfare, where any non-member may address the GSS for no more than 5 minutes. Do we have any speakers? Seeing none. And now that there's nothing for new senators, officer appointments and resignations, for club maintenance, I'd like to call up for final recognition, the Whitewater Club.
Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Caleb Thibodeau. I'm the president of the Maine Whitewater Club. With me here tonight is Will Morris, our treasurer, and Emily Kidd, our vice president. So we are here seeking your vote for final recognition, as you may know. Over this fall, we've already run, sorry, I'm nervous, sorry. Let me go back to script. Our club's goal is to foster an inclusive Whitewater community that develops resilient leaders, promotes environmental stewardship, and provides otherwise inaccessible opportunities. Our school is amazingly located between some of the best play boating and beginner paddling opportunities in the state, with roughly 10 amazing locations within a 15-minute drive on campus. It's pretty awesome. So far this fall, we have run a 2-raft trip down the Kennebec. We have run 2 introduction to whitewater clinics where we taught people how to whitewater kayak. And we've started a weekly surf session where we go and kayak surf every Tuesday or Thursday night within 5 minutes of campus here. We even got a visit from the University of Maine's manager of visual media, Ron Lisnet, if any of you guys know him. In the coming months, we have plans to work with Mainbound to run pool sessions throughout the winter months when the rivers freeze up. And we're planning on doing a river cleanup as like a community service thing for our club. We're gonna do river cleanup from Old Town down to the VZ boat launch. Show our local rivers and love. Achieving final recognition would help us be better suited to run pool sessions and acquire warm gear to help our programs continue to run throughout the fall and give us an early start this spring. Yeah. Anybody has any questions? Yeah.
What's your favorite part about the club?
About our club? Well, so Emily and I are both raft guys through the summer. And I would say that the answer to that question is very similar to like why I'm a raft guy. And it's because I really, really love getting people outside and sharing this like incredible opportunity with other people.
What's your favorite location in your campus too?
Your campus, right now, we only have like one really good spot that's in, and it's in Mills Rapids. It's like 5 minutes from campus. It's right in downtown Orono. Right on the main center of Penobscot. It's this really cool surf wave. We like to call it, excuse my French, we like to call it the shit wave because it's just down, it's like right next to the Orono wastewater treatment plant. And so sometimes when you're putting in the boat, it smells a little stinky, but luckily none of that water makes it into the river. So yeah, but it's this really cool surf wave. Yeah.
Are there any more questions for our speaker?
It sounds like you're planning to request funding. Do you know how much you're gonna plan to request?
As of right now, no. Luckily, we got donated 2 rafts. So the club has 2 rafts, which would be the huge bulk of what we would be asking for. And then between Emily Wills, we have a lot of whitewater kayaks, which would probably be the most expensive things. And so we're really going down to like covering the cost of the pool sessions, which is something that we might want to do for our members here at some point. And then also like acquiring more helmets, paddles, and PFDs, and then like wetsuits, that sort of stuff. And so that stuff can be pretty pricey, and we want quite a few of them, but we're really excited that like our biggest costs are probably out of the way. But yes, we'll probably be seeking funding.
Any more questions? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
400 on the bus.
Senator Warren?
I move to approve the committee recommendations.
Second. During a second, we'll now enter discussion. Seeing none, debate. President Tripp?
I just want to say you did a great job presenting, and I'm glad you did. It's okay to be nervous. Sounds really cool, and we should support it.
Any more points for debate? Seeing,
Just to also put this out there, their safety protocols are so airtight, like they were prepared for that question and they have plans in place, just so you guys know.
any more points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you. Seeing nothing else for club maintenance, club presentations, or guest speakers, we'll start with our executive reports with the president.
Hi, guys. Few old business things. I met with Senator Chapin about Faculty Senate. We set up expectations for this year in our Faculty Senate task force, so I'm excited to see that. I look forward to seeing what he and his team accomplishes. Next, amnesty policy. I dropped that in the chat last week. If you haven't reviewed that yet, please do. It is intended to come out of this a consideration with an act to urge with the Senate's policy positions matter. I would like these to be reasonable and airtight. And I would like to hear the Senate's opinion on where this project should be delegated, what committee, a task force. I'm going to be making that decision toward the end of the week, so please let me know your thoughts on that. Next, the library proposal, another item from last week. Just reminding everyone of the proposal that I mentioned and shared. Make sure you look that over. Please direct all feedback to either myself or now Senator Collmore, who will be serving as our representative to the Faculty Senate Library Committee. Thank you. So those feedback was kicked out another week because of the bi-weekly schedule of GSG. So by next week, I'm going to need that feedback to either myself or Senator Collmore. Next, town ordinance updates. I've connected our new reps with Sean. They'll be meeting soon. It's kind of an ad hoc task force that will be myself, our legal representative, 2 students, the 2 student reps on the Good Neighbor, and of course our attorney. I'll be sharing with the Senate a document that outlines the changes that Sean recommended, color-coded by priority. Something that we need to do is iron out as a Senate which ones we want to push for and ones that we do not. These are of course recommendations from our attorney, but none of them are official Senate positions until we pass something about them. And I will also be submitting a press release to the Maine campus regarding the visit of the town council. A very positive one. I'm going to drop the language of that later tonight in the chat. Moving into new business, myself and Vice President Shelmerdine got a tour of UMPD. We did that with President Fernie Mundy and Dean Gifford. I assume that VP Shelmerdine will expand on that, but we had some good discussions about campus emergency response and ways to better connect students with the police force on campus, so those were all good. Next, the Student Conduct Hearing Board is looking for nominations. So student government, I was submitted the nomination form. I also have the application form. The conduct office essentially is looking for students to sit on committees that will be comprised of other students, faculty, and staff to hear student conduct cases and assist in decisions. Lori, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this. Students must be nominated from what I understand, though we can also share the application link as people who can nominate. So I encourage you to nominate people that you find are interested, or if you would like me to nominate you, I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know. That's a big deal, a pretty good resume builder, and a pretty important place to have students represented. Next, syllabus bank. I met with Senator Ricker today to go over the syllabus bank project. We'll be setting up subsequent meetings with the Faculty Senate and Academic Affairs Committee and Provost Paquette to get the ball rolling on that. I also need to meet with our GSG representative, Senator Blatt, and GSG itself, as the Provost Office has let us know that they will only join in support if resolutions pass UMSG, GSG, and then Faculty Senate. So we have some advocacy on the horizon. So Senator Blatt, please set up a meeting with me soon using my booking. And then last, meetings I have coming up. First, I'm meeting with Faculty Senate President Amanda Clemmer to talk about UMSG and Faculty Senate relationship, the syllabus bank project, how to go through that. If there's anything else you'd like me to address with her, I'd be happy to. Next, we're planning a graduate student government kind of dinner get together between executive teams. That should be in the coming weeks. So I'm excited to report back about what we talked there. There are some ideas I would like to run by them, but I'm gonna wait till then. And then lastly, next week is our first senior administration meeting. That'll take place Wednesday at 4 p.m. So I'll be bumping exec forward. So all of my execs, that'll be starting at 3 p.m. If you can only come at 3:30, that's fine, just come late. But we're gonna try to run it through it a little bit quicker. Senior admin meetings include the president, chief of staff, provost, dean of the graduate school, and dean of students. So I will be building an agenda, as I always do, on things that I think need to be addressed with them. But please, if you have anything that you would like me to address with them, let me know. And yeah, that's the end of my report.
Great. For my report, Keegan and I met with Dick Young and Meredith Bryant on Friday to discuss parking. There are around 20 park spots available after that discussion, and they will hopefully be at a discounted price. But we will have that confirmed after our group meeting with facilities management, which I have yet to set up. There isn't a set plan for extending parking long-term, other than a proposal for the Orchard Lot to be around 100 new spots, but that's not set in stone yet. That's just an idea. It's like an idea of a proposal. Nothing's written down, which is unfortunate to hear, but I'm glad they're looking forward. No extension to parking for the steam lot. I know that was an idea that was floating around, but they can no longer build that close to the water per state regulations. They're looking to use empty space near Delta as short-term parking for athletes when they go on away trips. After the construction near the Alfond and football field are done, there'll be more parking, which will bring us to almost even, but then when the Morse Arena is built, it will take down around 100 parking spaces, 120, which is closer. I was sent the spreadsheet with all the numbers, and I've been frankly too busy to fully look through it, but I will message the Senate space with an exact rundown of how that's gonna play out. Like Keegan said, we got a tour of UMPD office with the president. Notable things from that meeting, the blue lights are gonna be phased out. So that means that one of the concerns with the U Park of when the blue lights being out in general is no longer a big concern, because they want to push towards the Black Bear Safe app, because that's basically a blue light in your pocket. There is an emergency button right on the interface of that app, and it serves the same purpose to update all of the blue lights, because there's only 5 manufacturers that exist. It would be around $1 million. While for the app for a year is only $8,000. So I encourage all of you to download the Black Bear Safe app, and also to encourage your peers as well. We talked about the increase of security cameras, which was a budget item that was approved by the security meeting over the summer. And that is something that they're still actively looking into. It just takes time to put in this infrastructure. They're opening to do events with the student body to help build that trust and relationship. And they have an updated active shooter plan, which was very interesting to see the behind the scenes of. The MCEC SAB has elections Friday, and I finally got our signature of the bylaws from our dean, which is very exciting, because I also put in a clause that includes adding senators without the normal approval process of the dean's appointment, which is typically how these appointments will be set. Therefore, student government will always have a place in these student advisory boards, no matter what cap or qualifications the deans want for their groups. I had today a meeting with accessibility and physical spaces and culture on campus. From the results of that meeting, we'll be creating a task force. I'm one of 3 people that will be starting that to see how we can inform the greater student population regarding issues on campus and how we can get that feedback to then directly influence choices made through administration. An example of this was one of the teachers that was in this meeting had students go around as an assignment, find inaccessible items and take photos and document it. And this is something that they're looking to extend to students. This also includes things like town halls and roundtables to discuss that, yes, administration knows things are inaccessible. They understand it, but it takes a while and it takes a lot of money to get this done. Unfortunately, facilities management was not in this discussion that we had. And so that will have to be a larger group discussion in the future regarding longevity and how we can actually implement these changes we want to see. Lastly, tomorrow I'll be filming a bus video with our DOC, Ride the Bus with VP Shummerdine, where amidst our parking crisis, I would like to encourage people to start using our free bus program to hopefully lighten the amount of cars that are in our parking lots. And so I will be walking people through how they can access that. Lastly, regarding the speed hump resolution from last week, I got a call from Rob St. Louis from Facilities Management, and they have looked over our proposal and things are in the works currently because they do have the speed humps. They're in a shed behind UMPD, and so they're now working out administratively how they can implement them on our campus and report. Vice President of Financial Affairs.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start off with my traditional report. Our starting projected unallocated figure is $416,760.79. This week we had a transfer of $1,343.45 from travel to uniforms for fast pitch softball. No budget lines. I had no office budgets this week. For the consent agenda, we have the Director of Communications, $480 for CapCut Pro. Men's volleyball for $540.60 for a combination of items like ball bags, volleyballs, a needle to pump it up, and an increase to their league fee because they're having an extra team. Geological Society for $242 with just general supplies for events this year. Hillel with $820 for general events for recruiting and other cultural meetings taking place throughout the semester. And then Sports Club checkbooks, again, similar to last week, for $594.18. Resolutions tonight that is Senate will hear, we have student entertainment trying to increase their budget to buy $259,000. We have fast pitch softball coming in for $1,156.55 for uniforms as well. And just to add to that, if everything passes tonight, unamended by Senate, it'll leave our ending unallocated figure at $154,000, $154,227.46. And the report.
Vice President of Student Organizations.
Very quick report today. We have one club at SOC, but we also talked about bands, and we think the best way moving forward is to establish CANS as a special committee within the Senate. I'll be working with Senator Sparks to push that through. Also, we have a seed rep now, which is great. End of report.
Vice President of Student Entertainment.
Hey everyone, our tabling campaign starts tomorrow in the Union, 12 to 2. We're also starting discussions on the spring artist, so if you're interested, please come to SEC Tuesdays 2 to 3. And tonight you're going to hear a lot from me as I have, I guess, a resolution and my EDC request. So, end of report.
Vice President of Student Leadership.
I'm almost done with my new senator one-on-ones. I'm also working on the leadership scholarship application. I'm gonna drop that draft in the Senate chat. So, because I'd like a lot more senator input on everything I'm working on this year. So if you all wouldn't mind looking through that and just seeing if there's any things you want to change about the questions or the application as a whole. Please leave your binders tonight so I can continue updating the documents in them. I'm gonna add the SORP as well as the cabinet policies. And anything else that's not being updated this semester. I'm also gonna start being a lot more annoying in the Senate chat, because I'd like to do a Robert's Rules training within October, separate from my fall semester retreat. I'll speak more on this once I get a time and date locked down, but I want it to be a really good resource for you and returning senators to brush up on their Robert's Rules and even maybe practice chairing or using language they typically don't get to in Senate. End of report.
Advisor to student government? No report. Are there any questions for the speakers? Seeing none, moving into periodic reports, starting with faculty, Senate, student representative.
Hi guys, quick report, so, for the people in the task force, I did create a document, and I posted it in the chat, just kind of outlining expectations and responsibilities that I think would be kind of cool. If we all attempted to follow, and I highly recommend that, task force members look that over, because it also does include how I would prefer people to meet with me. As President Tripp said, Senator Collmore has joined the task force and will be sitting on the Library Advisory Committee. We are still in need of somebody to sit on the Information Technology Committee within the Faculty Senate. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to me. And the first Faculty Senate meeting is on Wednesday, the 15th. So unless I get somebody to sit on the Information Technology Committee, or unless there are committee meetings that occur between then and now, this will probably be the only report you get from me, and a report.
University of Maine Board of Trustees student representative.
Hi, everyone. So next week is the senior admin meeting, which President Tripp mentioned. I talked with President Tripp about the best way to start communicating more widely the things that happen in the board meetings, and we thought it might be a good idea for me to reach out to the main campus about a newsletter, so I'm gonna be looking into that. This is not really BOT, but is something I'm doing. The provost hiring committee is well underway. I have like 16 hours of scheduled interviews next week, which is a lot, but it's very exciting, and there are a lot of really cool candidates. And then still working away at the student trustee hiring policy and report.
Chair of the Fair Election Practices. No report. There's no report for the Student Legal Services Liaison. Representative of the Graduate Student Senate.
I will be meeting with President Tripp as aforementioned, but otherwise I have no report.
When is next week?
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
Bye.
Orono Town Council Liaison.
The Orono Town Council met last night, some things that I thought might be notable. The Old Town Community Covered and Orono Community Covered were in the meeting. They mentioned that they had their funding cut. So, Old Town in particular was serving some UMaine students. We're now recommending they go to the Blackberry Exchange. They're not able to serve them. It's just a funding issue. But other news, they were considering changing their park ordinance, sounding like it was going to be more so to exclude certain uses of the parks, but they rejected that unanimously, which was, I thought was good. It sounded sort of similar to the good neighbor ordinance. On the good neighbor ordinance, I'm more refraining from comment on that because they didn't mention it at the meeting, and we'll be dealing with that. And report,
Old Town Council City Liaison.
no report.
There's no report for Representative of Military and Veteran Student Affairs, so the Director of Communications.
Continue to fill out the Google form if you haven't for Senator Spotlights. If you need headshots, refer to my booking link. If those times don't work, email me, we'll figure something out.
Director of Technology.
Last week, I met with James, the new campus group admin. We worked on moving some of the digital funding details into the campus group. I also met with Sean for having some more obvious purpose from our side to his legal service thing. It's still going, but yes.
University of Maine Security Representative.
Hi guys. So after meeting with Dean Gifford, she's gonna be looking into, which I mentioned during my last report, she's gonna be looking into the confidential legality of mixing Title IX and UMPD on a more personal level with all reports. The idea of coffee and the cops, which Keegan, Vice President Tripp originally started. You know what? I'm just gonna stop trying to address him. Is moving forward. I'm also working with Andrea Gifford on multiple things in side by side with Title IX and UMPD to work on marketing improvements and completely redoing the Let's Talk posters around campus that are mainly in the bathrooms because they are completely inaccurate to what everybody is trying to push forward. So, end of report.
The Center of Undergraduate Research Liaison.
Hi, everyone. Turns out the meeting I went to last Wednesday was for the symposium committee, not Cougar. So I found out about symposium. I will be reaching out to see when the first Cougar meeting is, but.
Are there any questions for the speakers? President Tripp?
This is for the Orono Town Council Liaison. Funding connected to, I assume, federal cuts.
Yeah, motion federal cuts.
Okay.
President Tripp?
I have other questions. Is for another person. We're able to.
No.
Okay, great. How many senators have filled out your form to see the clerk?
8.
To add on, everyone, everyone will have their headshots for their Senate posters by the 14th. So that's not next week, but that's the week after. You will have your headshots done by then. And if you don't, he can bring his camera and you will get it done.
Tonight, so if you want to do it during recess, let me know.
Perfect.
And we'll be here every week.
We need to move forward with the senator posters, so I would love the cooperation. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Seeing none, moving on to reports of standing committees, starting with policy and procedure.
Two policies going through today. One of them should be pretty quick, one of them will be pretty quick. And then tomorrow at Polytro, we have just one resolution going through. As a reminder, Polypro is at 5 on Wednesdays in the Senate chambers. Please come. End of report.
Political activism.
Hi, everyone. We had a pretty full meeting last week, which was exciting. We're glad to see a bit of people there. For everyone else that doesn't know, we meet at 4 in the Wade Center on Wednesdays. I attended my first meeting of UVO today. That was exciting. Still trying to figure out the logistics of how we can help and what they're looking for. But I think we've been signed on to help with some lecture thing on question 1 and 2 that are coming up. So that's exciting. And then I have a meeting scheduled for October 8th with the head of the political science department to see what they are willing to do to help us with some events and with the website. Otherwise, the committee has just been working on, we worked on the resolution to change and restructure the committee. And then also this week, we're working on assignments for the website. End of report.
Services.
Hello, everyone. Senator DeLong went and checked out tab and patch for the bike racks and found out that they did put bike racks in. So that's great, but we're still gonna go and look around other spots where they're needed based off the Instagram post that President Tripp put out. Other than that, a quick note about the meeting on Thursday. The time is moving to 4:30 to 5:30, also in the Wade Center. This is to try to encourage the senators who are in that committee who haven't been able to attend to be able to attend this next meeting.
Academic affairs.
Yeah, so a few things. Yesterday, I met up with the Faculty Senate Academic Affairs Committee, and through it, we talked a bit about, like, there was a very much so transitional period. The previous chair was there for 3 years and they recently switched. So they talked a bit about catching up on what was going on, some research that we managed to lose at some point. I was looking for that. Yeah. And today, I met up with President Tripp. We talked a bit about the service repository, our plans for going forward, and how we're going to funding that, and how we're going to see that through. And lastly, academic affairs meetings are Fridays at noon. If you want to join the committee, either email me or let me know or show up. I really don't mind the life. If someone wants to do this stuff, definitely. This committee is very fun to do. So thank you.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to reports of special committees, starting with Holistic Health and Wellness Committee.
Hi, everybody. Good news, bad news, mid news. Starting with the good news. Last week, we were at the Black Bears Apparel Fair Carnival. I hope you guys were there to dunk some of our really cool, awesome senators. Especially shout out to Senator Whitehead, who was in there for I think the longest out of everybody. We got a lot of good engagement, got some FaceTime with students. We do want to look at if we continue to participate in this event, maybe having a little more FaceTime with students and having a little more of that, like, this is student government, here's what we do kind of stuff. But it was still a really cool event, and I think it had a really awesome impact on everybody. Today I had a meeting with some representatives from the Dean Suite, as well as heads of various student life departments like Student Wellness and the Office for Community and Connection, to talk about the ongoing emergency contraceptive concerns on campus. Currently, since the emergency contraceptives have been made inaccessible in Swell, approximately like 4 or 5 students have reached out to the organization Triota, which I'm also the president of for content, to get emergency contraceptives. So this is still a very needed thing on campus. The current boxes that were in Swell's office have been moved to the Wilson Center as of now, where they will be available until they run out. There are approximately 27 boxes left there. After that point, administration is not really sure of what steps to take. Due to policies with medical distribution, we are unable to use any of our state or federal funding to purchase emergency contraceptive. So that is a barrier that we're looking right now. There's been some talks about grants or things, but we are still unable to pass that out to the students as part of the University of Maine. So that may have to be something that a student-run organization or a third-party group might have to speak on, but we are looking into options for that, and hopefully I will have more answers for you eventually. I also wanted to note in this like meds policy change, that does mean any medication. Previously, Swell has also carried Midol or ibuprofen for students who especially might be experiencing menstrual cramps. That is no longer accessible, but there will still be menstrual products in Student Wellness Center and the Intersectional Feminist Resource Center. End of report.
Does anyone have the FDA report? Undergraduate Student Symposium.
Student symposium update, strong start, already have half of the total amount of money raised last year for this year's symposium, so going pretty fast. This year, they're emphasizing for the student panel, not having questions geared mostly towards grad students, but instead focusing on all abstracts, including undergrads. I will be holding my symposium committee meetings every Monday from 12 to 1. Thinking about doing it in the new Wells Pavilion until it gets too cold to do that. So if you're interested in joining, let me know.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, moving on to representative board reports, starting with CAMS, that's. Interfraternity Council.
So we've taken on Avery Olson of Alpha Sig as our new DEI chair for the rest of the semester. So this will be his first meeting and we'll get him on board. Briefly to start the next week. We're releasing IFC news this week. We're still working on getting all of the new members for each chapter registered in campus groups. So Tim, I want to give a full number of how many initiated new members we have. And like Fiji and Pi Phi have hosted trivia this week at Wells at 6 o'clock.
Athletic Council.
Hi, I'm sending out applications for the chapters tomorrow in hopes to fill the vice president of philanthropy position on my exec board because it became vacant due to some unforeseen circumstances. Panhellenic dues are being released to the chapters this week. DPIE, they're having their capture for cure. It's coming up on October 4th from 12 to 2.
on the wall, and they're looking for teams of 5 to 6 people. So if you're interested in putting a team together, you can register through their Instagram. IFC and Panhill will have a joint meeting tomorrow at 6:30 in this room. And at this time, all Panhellenic chapters are in good standing with both Panhellenic and the school, and they're also all at total and report.
Student Athletic Advisory Council, does anyone have that report from Taylor? Senior Cloud Council.
Hi everyone, just a reminder that our next upcoming event is our bake sale, which is next Thursday from 9 to 2 in the Union. Earlier this week, we sent out a form to our senior class asking for people to fill out a feedback form on our class merch, so things like logos and types of merch they'd like to see. We've gotten a lot of responses to that, but just encourage you and your friends to fill that out so we get as many pieces of feedback as we can. You're also still looking for sober monitors for our fall formal, which is Saturday, November 8th from 8 to 11 in Buchanan. So if anyone is interested or you know of a student organization that might be interested, just have them reach out to me. If you're a sober monitor, you will receive a free ticket to the event. And then also we now have 221 days till graduation and report.
Sustainability Environmental Action Division.
We're hoping to co-sponsor a talk with Mitchell Center for Katie Timms from the City of Portland Sustainability Office this coming Monday.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, moving on to Community Association reports, starting with Student Heritage Alliance Council.
Shaq had a pretty good week last week. I met with Anila from the Office for Community and Connection twice. On the first occasion, we met with my advisor, Dean of Libraries, Daisy Singh, discussing how Shaq and OCC could bridge gaps made in the past so that we can work better to make the Friends and Family Feast run smooth, like as smooth as possible this time. So that was very productive. I also met with Anila and some other student leaders to discuss protocol for in the case of violence in some of our club meetings, and that was very good. I understand, but you know, I need it. I'm also to meet with ISA this week in order to discuss the Culture Fest, which is coming up in early November, and so I'm looking forward to that. We also made a consistent meeting time, so where we met in the past bi-weekly, we decided that going forward with weekly meetings would be the most beneficial for all of us. And I should also note that after talking to some staff at the Franco American Center across the hall, there are a lot of disgruntled individuals over there pertaining to the destruction of Crossing, to make room for parking space with the new basketball gym. Crossing Hall is the oldest building on campus, and a large body finds refuge over there, and so this is something that's been on all of our minds and is weighing heavily on us. End of report.
Wildstein.
I have been working hard over the last month to set Wildstone up for the future. This is my first and only year, so I've been for everyone this year. At the beginning of this year, I did have concerns about Wildstein. At the end of last year, we had a total of about 10 active members, not including execs, and 8 of them graduated. I'm happy to report that we've had approximately 20 consistent, very active members at all of our meetings. We filled all of our open executive positions, and the new execs are very excited to be a part of Wildstein and to carry it on for at least the next 3 years. We have lots of events coming up for Communal Week, which is next week on Monday from 11 to 1 in the MSC at the LGBT party as well. Same day, same location, from 6 to 7 p.m. We have the coming out monologues. On Tuesday through Thursday, we'll be tabling, having a bake and craft sale for the Equality Community Center with Triota and Dragon. And then on Friday the 10th, we will have our Lavender Pride March around the mall with Triota and Dragon.
International Student Association.
Well, we had a very fun week last week. We had our ISA retreat where we discussed about our fundraising events, our we have some we have some events and we wanted to put them into the calendar during the next year. And also we will be having a meeting with SHOP this coming Friday. And we will be discussing how we can help each other and how we can help, like how we can use each other to improve and also provide good services to the international community. And we're having, we also plan for the Culture Fest that's coming in November 14th. And we're having a coffee hour this coming Friday in the state of the Lodge.
Are there any questions? President Tripp?
One for the SHAC representative. Do we know if they're obviously said here, but do we know if the Franco-American Center has been promised another space on campus?
Yes, it has been promised another space. It's more so just a destruction of the standing building. That's the source one.
Good. I was just making sure that they were at least relocated.
Just
all of that question, where is the new space that they've been allocated?
I believe in the next 3 years, while the new building is being constructed, the Franco-American Center is going to be located right around Libby Hall. And then the new building will be located in the west end part of campus.
Are there any more questions? Seeing none, if it's the pleasure of the Senate, will now enter a 5-minute recess. Coming back at 6:49. Here. I'm now looking for approval of our consent agenda. Senator Dorn. Here, a second, I'll enter discussion. Debate. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. For unfinished business, we have the cabinet veto, 46 SPLL 85. Senator Ricker.
I don't know if this kind of rules can switch new business and unfinished business, so the way the order comes in this agenda.
Oh, here a second.
Second.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Debate.
Sorry, they said here.
I'm arguing like switch was unfinished business now to new business just because unfinished business might take us a minute, so I figured might as well just have people go here for EBC able to go forward and not have to wait for us to debate this.
Okay. Any more debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing clear majority, that passes.
That was a good call.
Yes. We will now enter business for 46S EBC 99 for an act to allocate funds to the fast pitch softball. We have
All right, let's cease that for a minute while our speaker's speaking.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alicia Havey, treasurer for the Fast Pitch Club softball team here on campus. Today, we are looking to request a total amount of $1,156.55, which would increase our USMD budget up to our allowed $5,000 limit as we are a tier 2 club. We are looking to request this money to purchase uniforms for our club as years go on, our team grows and the sizes we currently have for our uniforms do not match the participants we have on our team. So we are requesting money to help purchase those. Part of the association we are within, we are allowed to have up to 25 players on the roster. So this would help fund that. And then we would, if this does pass, we would likely transition some of our already approved funds over to uniforms to help finish this so that we could purchase possibly up to 35 uniforms, just to make sure we have a wide enough range of sizes for all of our players.
Do we have any questions for our speaker? EP Fang.
I assume this was already communicated to you and communicated with you. Know about putting our logo on the, do you have the UMSG branding guide?
I have seen it on the website, so I know where the location for all that information is.
Great. I'm just curious, do you know where on them you wanna put it yet?
It will likely be on the sleeve, I just have to make sure that when I upload it to the uniform builder, that it will be able to put on there, if not, it will likely go somewhere on the bottom of the shirt.
Thank you.
Senator Ricker?
Do you anticipate the uniform setting for you guys when the seniors eventually graduate?
No, if they are, if funding is held to purchase through USMG, it could be returned to the club and then to, I believe Sean would be able to hold them over the summer for this. Or a student organization locker. So all of those uniforms would be kept on school property throughout the year to make sure that they are all within the schools or the club's possession and not in individuals.
Are there any more questions for speakers? Senator Elliott?
How often will you buy a uniform usually? Since I started, this is the first year, I believe. The first time that when the club was founded, we were given a old set of the varsity's uniforms. Since then, only one other set has been purchased, which is the set we are currently using, which we have a limited number of, and all the sizes are too small, which is why we are trying to purchase new uniforms.
Any more questions for our speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
700 on pass.
I'm now looking for a motion to accept the committee's recommendation. Senator Lomondre.
Move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Do I hear a second? Hearing a second, we will now enter discussion. Debate. Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. We will now move on to 46S, DVC 97, an act to allocate funds to the student entertainment budget.
Oh, what? We should have this up on the screen. Yeah. Like, we're gonna need it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This one last year, we're at the fix.
This is incredible.
There. So,
Okay, hi everybody, I'm DPXD Lehman, C stands for Student Entertainment, which is why I'm requesting money. So, just to set some things for an understanding, right now, the student entertainment budget stands at $122,000. That happened because President Tripp passed, or I guess the Senate, and we all passed the thing that instated that student entertainment could only request 25% of the projected budget for the next year at the annual budget meeting. So that $122,000 is well below the 25%, but when I made it up, it consisted of $80,000 for a concert, a spring concert, $10,000 for a fall music festival, and $30,000 for other programs. I'm here today to ask for an additional $259,000 because I think it's worth it. We asked the students last year to raise the student activity fee, and overwhelmingly they voted yes, not just because they wanted they wanted a lot of things, but a big thing that we sold them on was better student entertainment. And unfortunately, the only way to have better student entertainment is to spend more. So while the number might look scary, I think it's absolutely worth it. So I can go through a breakdown of the numbers if you guys want. So again, the total that I'm requesting is $259,000. We're requesting an additional $170,000 for the concert, putting that at $250,000. That is a fair price to me. Other universities such as UNH spend a lot more than that, and they additionally charge their students. So essentially, we're putting on a concert for $250,000 for free for all undergrads, which I think is a steal. But so past few shows that we've been doing have been like 60K around that. So this like increases the amount that we're spending in the concert by a lot. And that not only allows us to get a better venue, but it allows us to get better artists, which is what the students want. In the spring survey, they overwhelmingly wanted better acts and better concerts. So this would help us bring that to what the students wanted. Movie tickets, 35,000. That's just, we've gone over this. Students love the movie tickets. That's about how much we spend each year already. So that's just to add it into the budget this year. So he's gonna cut that. The UNH t-shirts, last year, we spent $5K roughly per student for shirts for the Beat UNH game. That got us 400 shirts. Those 400 shirts were gone almost instantly. So bumping it up to 8K, I think will get us more shirts, but it also allowed better designs, I'm pretty certain, which is very exciting. The summer recon stands for reconciliation. There are a couple of events that happened in these first few months that had to get planned over the summer, that the only way for them to get planned and done required student entertainment budget to get used, because clubs can't come in and request money and stuff like that. So that was just money that we used, but not for our own events, so it'd be nice to have that back too. Main band rentals, this one I'm very excited about. Just to set something aside, we already have an agreement drafted up that Sean has already looked over and given the A-OK. But essentially, it's going to work very similarly to how the movie tickets work. And students are able to go to Main Bound and rent out a piece of equipment, like the outdoor equipment, so say like a kayak or something, for the week, and then we just cover the cost. I think it's a very exciting opportunity, especially knowing that a lot of our largest clubs on campus are outing clubs. So that means students are wanting to do the outdoors, and paying for some of the equipment, although it's at a reduced price, can still be a challenge for college students. So I think this is a very unique opportunity that we can hopefully start this year and continue on. And then food trucks. If we are not known for our concert or the movie tickets, it is food trucks. Students love the movie food trucks. Unfortunately, last year we had to cut it out of our budget to make room for other things. And people were very disappointed that we weren't doing food trucks again. So this would allow us to bring food trucks back. And I think that's another fair price. The last time we got food trucks, we spent like 15K roughly on all of that. So this is to make it a much bigger event. And I imagine food prices have gone up in the 2 years since.
Are there any questions for our speaker? Senator Rickard?
Yeah, so obviously you can't really talk about like content and like how that leadership stuff's going. But if you had to guess, how many students do you think you can get to a kind of big console utilizing the massive budget that will be out there?
That's very dependent on a lot of factors. The key one is like a venue. We don't have that yet, and that's currently in the process. So I would say it's very up in the air, because whatever the venue we use depends on how much money we're spending on the venue, which then cuts into how much money we can spend on artists.
Any more questions?
Can you elaborate a little bit on the summer recon? I don't totally understand what that is.
Yeah, so I worked with President Tripp to help pay for the Concert for Consent hosted by SIGET. We helped pay for the Black Bear Care Fair, if I'm not mistaken, and then we also did the freshman tailgating event at the first football game. These were all things that happened over the summer and were seen by me and President Tripp as more of like a UMSG helping out and not really a UMSG event. And they needed like help in that regard, especially the Concert for Consent. So to me, the money there is just we, again, clubs and organizations can't really come in and like request money over the summer. So the student entertainment budget can be approved by me to be used, so that's what it was for.
Any more questions? VP Fang?
The food trucks, because it's for Maine Day.
That is up in the air. There's a discussion happening in SEC, so if you're very interested in that, you can come Tuesdays, 2 to 3. But it's something that is still up in the air. Pam and I have talked about it a lot, potentially bringing back Food Truck Fridays in some regard, but with the $30,000, we could also turn it into an event of sorts and have like food trucks for like one day on the mall and turn it to a huge thing. It's still up in the air, and I think student entertainment committee gets to decide that, so.
Any more questions? Senator Ricker?
Yeah, so in terms of venue for the council, are you looking at like local kind of like annual Google type of like facilities, or are you looking at like on campus setting up something that comes in and sets up the local?
Yeah, so from my just on a blank bit thing, we're moving away from the CCA. So the CCA only has like 1,300 seats, and that's just not something that's going to work. And all the seating is just seating, and there's no like standing room, so that's not going to work for a concert in general. We are looking. Can I just say these things? I think you can. Okay, we're looking into getting it at the Alphon. That is part of a larger discussion due to like the renovations and seeing if the facilities and timing is up for that. But President Tripp has a meeting with Athletic Director Killy about that and seeing if there's a way for that. Otherwise, we are most likely going to have to move it off campus. I know the town of Orono is very against doing the outdoor thing because people like jump the fence and stuff, and it's just very unsafe in a lot of regards. So it'd probably be moving to like the Cross Insurance Center or something like that if it wasn't on campus.
Few more questions? Some VP Fang?
If this, well, before this, is there any amount in your budget currently for movie tickets?
No.
How have the last few weeks been funded, or has Black Person has been charging?
So again, currently in our budget, we have that $30,000 that I saw as like other programs. We were just going into that for now.
Any more questions for our speaker? VP Ball?
For the food trucks, do you have any ballpark idea or maximum or minimum for how many students or like meals that we'll be able to provide?
Again, I imagine food prices have gone up in the 2 years that we haven't done it, so I don't exactly have a clue on that.
President Tripp?
How much did 15 grand get us last year? How many meals? Or the last time we did them?
Do some deep dive.
It was like 800 or 900 if I'm not mistaken.
I think, oh, no, it was over 1,000.
Was it over 1,000?
It's over 1,000. It's like over 1,000. Yeah.
So double that, add a little.
Just wanted to add in, also it makes a difference if you're getting ice cream food trucks versus Red Barn versus, you know. So, I mean, if you're getting ice cream, you'll get thousands. If you're getting Red Barn, it'll get 500.
VP Fang?
I ask you a difficult question.
Point of information directed at VP Bowman.
What information directed at VP Bowman? What would be the unallocated after this request, and based on last year's as well as this year's trend of funding clubs, is that adequate number?
I mean, it's greater than what we had last year, when we made it work last year. And it puts us about even, especially considering like inflation and adjustments of CPI. So where we would have been in years prior to last year, we had much less funding. And so if this passes, it'll put us in about equal position to what we've had in the past. But then again, students also probably have increased. I'll say that for debate.
I also have a point of information for the baby bump. I don't totally know our financial policies, especially as they apply to summer expenditures. But I know that it was a process to get president and vice president payment for work done over the summer. How does that apply to the $6,000 summer recon, and is that something you guys discussed?
So according to our policies, anything that happens outside of like current hours. Do you know more, speaking about what you were thinking?
Yeah, so this isn't like that. So our policies against reimbursing, right? So reimbursing somebody for something that was bought, okay? This is essentially allocating an additional $6,000. This is what a reconciliation, knowing that the VP, SE and his budget went towards unexpected expenditures. Does that make sense? So it's not reimbursing anything. Are you asking about the spending itself over the summer? Or are you asking about the 6,000?
I think I'm asking about the spending itself over the summer.
How that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when there is no EBC and there is no like. So this is an issue that we're going to solve this year to do like a absolute process for how to do summer events. The fact of the matter is that if we want to hit the ground running and have events in the first couple of weeks, which I think we all do as student entertainment, there needs to be some process where we have some sort of summer fund. Without that, and this is precedent, this is years and years of precedent over the summer when those things go vacant, or when EBC is no longer there, it takes approval of the executive in charge of the budget. This is all vetted through Sean. And then myself and then Pam as well to sign off on expenditures that kind of go outside the bounds of what they were allocated for. However, this money was pulled from the line item programming. So technically it actually did apply to what we were talking about. But this is something that this is years and years again of precedent of how this works. This was recommended by Pam on how to go about it. This isn't the first time somebody forgot to request something before the summer ended, or student government got involved in something. You can also think in between VPSEs where it's not consistent, like VP Lehman, there needs to be some mechanism there for them to have a different, opinion going into the year of what that looks like. So all of it was legitimate, but I do agree we need to solidify an actual real process for that.
I guess it sounds like you talked with Pam more about it. I tried to talk with Dylan about it. It didn't make too much sense for the summer recon. This recon can't pay for anything that happened last summer, right? Because that would be reimbursing and it's already been paid for, everything that this recon expense did, so like concert for consent, Blackbird Care Bear, all that stuff. So this $6,000 wouldn't cover that, but it also wouldn't apply to next year because it's a different budget. So
This applies to this year's budget, like the active budget.
except this is trying to approve funding for this summer recon when all these events would still have happened and have already been paid for, right? The concert for consent already happened, so funding for this can't pay for anything.
No, this is giving it back to the line item of programming as if we didn't emergency spend those funds. I mean, this is a decision, I guess, if the Senate doesn't want to give that back. But again, those programs, like VP Lehman said, were done out of kind of like under that process that we didn't have an official process to meet the needs of these things. I do stand by the fact that it's important that we have some sort of mechanism for the student entertainment to, the majority of, and I think Lori can back me up on this, programming and events on campus are planned over the summer. They do not happen during the school year. So if we want in on that in any way, this was the only way to do it. So this is essentially just basically giving back because of the generosity of the Student Entertainment Committee for supporting these events over the summer, to go back to what they had originally intended for that funding to go. Obviously, the whole thing is changing, so like the line item programming is basically just being brought back up to what it would have been pre those events. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Any more questions? Senator Ricker.
Yeah, Vice President of Student Entertainment Lehman, I'm not pressing on you this because it's so much money, so sorry about that. But when you were like kind of strategizing it, there's 250,000, I believe the number total would be. Does that make sense for like the kind of framework you're working with and the number you're trying to work with, like while planning these events?
I think it makes the shows a lot more, it would make the show a lot more competitive to shows of the past and shows that other schools are putting on.
Any more questions for our speaker?
Point of information, what is the SEC's current programming budget, and does the PSC even have any more context on what he's planning on spending that programming budget off?
Yep, it's $120,000 consisting of $80,000 for the concert. $30,000 for miscellaneous programs, and then $10,000 for the fall music festival.
Which is currently at $24,000 for miscellaneous programs without the separate cost.
Yes.
Any more questions for our speaker?
Seeing, sorry. If this budget were not approved, or you used a lot more money for a venue, something like that, is it something you'd be willing to do to provide, like low cost tickets to students instead of maybe, or is that not consideration?
To me, that is not a consideration. We just told students that they have to pay $100 for a student activity fee. We just told them that student entertainment is going to get better. If I was a student, I would expect the concerts to still be free. I would expect not to have to pay extra money on top of the $100 I'm now paying towards student government.
President Trump.
Point of information, or point of privilege for the Senate to give information. We're exploring the possibility of, if this concert is big enough, potentially bringing graduate students into the fold with a reduced ticket rate, perhaps Machias and other students. This is all up in the air. I mean, what we really need right now is a figure to work with. This figure would set that. I'm gonna stop. This is getting too big. But yes, we're looking into potentially charging and subsidizing in other ways. And that's, I'm getting too debating.
Floor is now open.
Just to add on to that really briefly, when putting on a big scale concert, generally the cost for the artist is the same as the cost for the production. So let's say we paid an artist $40,000, the production would likely cost very close to $40,000 as well. So $80,000 for a concert, well, it seems like a lot of money. That's pretty actually low for a big concert.
Any more?
Just to give perspective.
Any more questions for our speaker? Senator Chapin?
If we're looking at venues and we can't have anything on campus and we're gonna have something more off campus, like by the Cross Insurance Center, how are students that are living on campus without access to transportation going to get to said concert?
Yep, we would have to pay for bus services, which would get really expensive real quick.
But you would be.
Yes, we would provide bus service.
Okay.
Any more questions? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
7-0, about to pass.
Senator Lord?
I move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, debate. You all.
When I UBC, I try to act as impartial. We had discussions before, and I gave my opinions on line items and what I thought was best. I tried to stay out of it at UBC, but I will talk to Senate about my stances on this. For food trucks are a lot. I personally have gripes with food trucks because in the past, they've run just on the borderline, if not over, of the standard that we hold our clubs to when we say that they can provide food for undergraduate students at $12.50. Knowing food trucks and knowing inflation, I'm pretty sure that the meals that we provide would be over $12.50 or would be found kind of unsatisfactory for our undergraduate student body. And so I feel like that 30 grand for food trucks could be spent better in other ways and more in line with the standard that we hold other clubs to. Whether you would like to cut it down to still have something so that we can bring food trucks here, but us paying for the meals themselves doesn't feel like it holds ourselves as a body to the same standard that we hold the clubs that we represent and aid in their events, as well as the summer recon. I'm still not confident in the way that it was actually applied. We don't let ourselves like reimburse for payments, and if this would apply to payments that we currently made, it would be a transfer into different budgets, And so calling it summer recon instead of like adding it to programming again, in order to make up for it. If you want to change that line to programming or programs, I think is what it's listed as in the current budget, I'd be more in favor of that. Events is what it's called. But so my stances are that we should cut food trucks in some sense, and we should amend the title of summer recon to events.
President Trick?
On the topic of the $12.50 per head, I think that we nailed it on the head just in what you just said, is the fact that that number itself is no longer indicative of inflation. I think that that policy itself needs to change, it needs to be raised for student boards generally. And then to the point of holding us to the same standard as clubs and boards, I would argue that the reason that that is there is because we cannot regulate the spending of clubs and boards that are not part of this body, that we don't see and don't have the checks and balances that we do in the same way that we can. I think that those policies, I mean, they've never directly applied to us. In the past, we even like, we talked about past practices of spending on things. These are all guides, and I don't think that that should stop us from providing what the students want to see. And if the students want to see food trucks, which they certainly do, then maybe that policy itself is out of date. But again, those policies are meant to hold. I understand the concept of like, we are not above other clubs and boards, but we function much differently and much more expansively than clubs and orgs do. That said, I think that $12.50 is criminal. I don't even think you could go to the Bears tent for $12.50 anymore. And the other thing I would say with reimbursing, I mean, I understand, I guess it's kind of semantics with recon, but again, it's not reimbursing anything. The policy against reimbursements is that students can't go, clubs and orgs can't go pay for something, then come to us for us to give that money to them, for them to then keep. That's not how that works, and that's not what's happening here. This is an additional request for $6,000 back into programming. I do think that the summer recon, you're right, the semantics is a little weird, and if we want to change that to additional funding for programming, we can. But that doesn't change the fact that this isn't reimbursement. And that's it. Oh, wait, actually, one last thing. I would also be okay with seeing the food truck number go down.
Senator Sparks?
On the point of reimbursement, I think that it's more of a situation of, like last year, we were running low on movie tickets, and so we added more into that line item for Dylan. We added more money into there, and I think it's more along the same lines of that, instead of like reimbursing an expense that we had done that had already been sent out. So I think that that line item is fine as is, and also food trucks. I think that the argument of $12.50, I do think that we should be stood on the same level as all the clubs. However, that line item is, as President Tripp said, criminal, and that should be changed. So I think that this should be passed as is. However, I think that the next thing that should be looked at within the financial policies is the $12.50, and that should be raised as soon as possible.
If you go.
The thing that during questioning, I mentioned in debate, big thing is that I believe that our students and clubs they're a much larger group than we are, and they are who we intend to represent and who we intend to hold events for and who we intend to cater for. I feel that Dylan does his best with surveys and gauging interest. VP Lehman does his best with surveys and gauging interest year to year and what people like. But I also believe that, especially this year with more budget and so many more senators than we've had in the past, that we have the bandwidth to reach out to our undergraduate population and have them submit their request to us and see the events they want to do. And so the higher this budget is, the less money that we have for the general student population to work with. And like I was saying earlier, even though they expect more for their student entertainment and their concerts, I'm expecting they'll also expect more that they can do with the unallocated figure throughout the year with what they want to do for events. And so the larger Dylan's budget is, the less money we have, the larger VP Lehman's budget is, the less we have to spend on our general undergraduate population throughout the rest of the year. But if you feel that Dylan or VP Lehman knows better how to spend this and how to cater to what the undergraduate student population's needs, then the undergraduate student population will for themselves, so the rest of the year, then feel free to vote in favor of this.
Senator Sparks?
I think that we should leave the food trucks as is because a lot of people aren't participating in clubs and a lot of people aren't participating in clubs that necessarily request funding regularly. And so I think that that's an outreach towards people who aren't as involved in the campus as the rest of the people are, and that's still a demographic of students that we need to represent and that we need to reach out to for entertainment, and so I think that we should leave it.
Senator Chapin?
I kind of see the merits of both sides. This is not a small amount of money to be spending. I do kind of think the food truck budget should go down. Food trucks are good, they are fun, they are delicious. But don't get me wrong, I think that some of that money would probably be better spent fixing the current problems with dining on campus than just trying to bring outside food in to solve it. I do agree with VP Bone that it's a lot of money, and maybe some of the money could be spent on other things that the general undergraduate population might come in and request a lot of money. I mean, we just saw like we just spent not a small amount of money compared to this. I mean, maybe, but I just think it's something to consider long-term for the rest of the semester of where we want to allocate our money.
For our new senators, if you want to make a motion to amend any of this time during debate is when you do that motion. Senator Dillard.
I think it's also important to VP Bone's point, to also keep in mind that SEC is technically a committee that any student can join after signing an NDA, but so with the initiative of trying to get more publicity by tabling weekly and regularly, I think we can as SEC and as student government push that a little bit more and get more involvement from students, so we do have that feedback where it's not just a small group of people making the decision with this money, but it's also based on feedback from students and yeah.
Commissioner Stinkevitz.
On the topic of food trucks, I think that they have been really successful in the past when I've seen them. However, there is no clear goal or event in mind with them, and so I think that knowing that we have this money in store, if we do decide to cut that or cut it down tonight, SEC can always come back later in the year for a specific event with a more accurate number for food trucks. If they end up finding, they want to do a huge event surrounding food trucks, or if they want to continue on doing one each month or whatever, they can always come back.
Senator Sparks.
I motion to amend the document to remove food trucks from the budget request.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Senator Sparks.
I'm doing this because it seems like we really want to focus in on the food trucks, and if we do have this much debate, I think that it should be scratched and gone back to the drawing board and talked about more in depth in SEC and in the committees, and like Commissioner Stinkevitz said, it can always come back to us for later requests.
This is discussion.
This is discussion.
Okay, but that was my reasoning on why I did that.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion? Debate? Senator Ricker.
If I'm not mistaken, if someone gets cut, it gets come back next week, ask for it, because they're entirely cut, correct?
Can you repeat that one more time?
If someone gets entirely cut from our budget, you can't just come back the next week and request it once again, like. Correct, okay, so I don't think entirely cutting this would be the way we should go about this, because students do use this, so I do feel like there would be a good balance between say, well, 40,000 we can probably go on and forth with.
President Tripp.
My last pitch for the food trucks and student entertainment in general would be the fact that while of course a lot of our money in the unallocated is reserved for clubs and orgs. There's a lot more students on this campus than are in clubs and orgs. Student entertainment is the division and is the part of student government that expands the full campus, is the only one that applies to all students equally. Frankly, events that clubs and orgs wanna come in and request, I agree are important, but those aren't going to be for the entire student body. Food trucks is something that I know for a fact, some students, that is their only use in the entire year of the activity fee. Like, I think that I disagree with the concept that student entertainment isn't in tune with what the students wanna see. And I also believe that while we anticipate an increased requesting of spending, we've also not, like, this is setting the tone for student entertainment the entirety of the budget. So I'm gonna, actually, I realize I'm debating the whole thing, so that's my pitch for food trucks. More than just students that are in clubs use, like, they need to also have access to the student activity fee and events that are geared towards them. I would say about fourth, goes in kind of fourths, you got athletes, Greek life, clubs and orgs, and then there's that fourth of students, those commuter students, those students who aren't involved in any other way, that do use these things, that these things do appeal to.
Senator St. Pierre.
I guess, sorry, this is just me being confused. Why they not be able to request funding for food trucks in the future if we shoot it down now?
So they can't come up with the exact same line item as a request. So they, like, this right now is ambiguous food trucks, it just says food trucks. They come in the future with food truck Fridays or with Maine Day food trucks. That's something that has a plan, it's not just an ambiguous line item, that's just this. Then we can accept that. So it just has to be different in some way, which it sounds like that's what we kind of want as a Senate, where we just want a plan for how food trucks are gonna go, and not an ambiguous food trucks figure.
Senator Collmore.
I would agree that that is probably the easiest way to go about this, is to come back when there's an idea of what we wanna use the money for, but also, I just feel like at that point too, if you kind of have an idea of what the event is, you'll have a better idea of how much money we need for that event, instead of an arbitrary number of, potential how much money we need.
Any new points for debate? Okay. Senator St. Lawrence.
Also, welcome to Tampa, but. That was kind of good. I really like the idea of food trucks. I feel like we should really at least try and make it happen campus. It's a really great way to get food diversity on campus, especially for those who really don't like the dining halls. That's constant ways still keep on coming in. But I agree that I feel like this needs a lot more planning going in. Maybe spend like a couple weeks just thinking about what we can do with that, and then towards the later part of the semester. Other than that, I feel like it kind of works. So yeah, I feel like it needs a little bit more.
VP Maven.
If I'm allowed to give you my 2 cents.
Yes.
I think that it is better to be proactive than retroactive with budgeting for this. I think that it is a lot harder to plan a food truck event when you don't know how much you're allowed to spend on a food truck event. Cause say I'm like planning for a $25,000 event or something, and I come in and you guys wanna give me $15,000, it's a lot harder to do an event like that. But if it's $30,000, I can also just return what we don't spend when allocated. But I think it's a lot easier to, especially having done this for 3 years, it's so much easier understanding when I know what budget I have and the parameters I have to plan the food truck event than it is to just come up with a number. And additionally, because we don't have a food truck event, doesn't mean that there's no ideas at all. I have given it to the SEC and we're going to discuss it. I'd rather we want food truck Fridays or like a large event. So there's already 2 options. It's not something that's just up in the air and we're just saying, oh, we might get food trucks. There's 2 options for food trucks, either food truck Fridays or an event of food trucks.
Any more points for debate? Seeing none. All those in favor for the motion?
You clarify what the motion is?
The motion is to strike the $30,000 for food trucks from
This motion. So this is the amendment. So all those in favor for the amendment to strike the 30 grand? I'm gonna count. Hold them behind. Okay, all those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a majority, that passes.
So it's cut.
It's cut. Right, back to debate for the motion. This, and as a whole, any more points for debate? Ethan Bang.
Okay, that food truck vote passed really close, actually, but I'd still like to make the similar arguments for the summer reconciliation line item. DP Lehman is welcome to disagree on this point if he would like, but I feel like that amount that was used over the summer Kids Clubs is exactly what that miscellaneous budget is for, and I'd like to ask VP Lehman if he thinks there is a time where he will need 30 grand at his disposal instead of being able to just come and request that extra grant for a thing that he needs, that is miscellaneous programming.
Yeah, so I see that $6,000 as money in my budget that was not planned for. And to me, this miscellaneous 30K works as working with CSI for the event. They're doing a whole weekend event and we're going to be contributing a lot that I knowingly planned for contributions and like working with CSI on CSI events. That was money that I planned for in my budget when I did it in the annual budget. The $6,000 that I spent at the beginning of this semester so far was money that I did not request because I had no idea that these expenditures would be coming out of my account. That's how I view it.
Any more points for debate?
Again, urge the senator to amend the title for summer recon to read programs.
Senator Warren.
I motion to add or change the summer recon title to programs, to programs.
Do I hear a second? Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Debate. President Tripp.
If this passes and the money is returned, I promise you by the end of the year, we will have a summer process for funds like this. And this will not be an issue moving forward.
Any more points for debate? Senator Sparks.
Just for clarification, this is just to change the name, not for anything else?
Yes. Any more points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed, all abstaining, seeing a clear majority, that passes. Back to the main motion. Any more points for debate for the now amended motion that strikes the 30,000 and the name for summer recon has been altered? Any more points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, all abstaining. Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. So now I do this. We'll now consider 46S POL 98 to have elected SEC positions and senators and committee requirements, the name of the position, the elected senator of the student interview committee.
Oh, hey everyone, so we just passed a big budget for student entertainment, which means student entertainment has a lot of priorities and a lot more work on their shoulders. This thing is to make the elected senator on the student entertainment committee, which already exists, work their Senate requirements, much like EBC and SOC are.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions for our speaker?
We have a little bit more to display.
Okay, so
Basically, the idea behind this is, with the increase in requirement in, the position fulfilling the both committee requirements, there's a senator who would also increase the responsibilities the senator is being given. And so right now, the senator is only required to show up to committee times and give their input, so that's 1 hour a week. We would be asking him to give, a little bit more time outside of the committee times with concert helping with the concert, helping with various plans and setups, tabling, that kind of stuff. This would be required, which is why it would be 2 points instead of just 1. Right now, we have people who are willing to do that, as a volunteer, but in the past, it's been very rocky, and right now, we need someone that we can fully count on and is reliable and thus is required to show up to these things. And so, if this passes, the document, standing rules will change in a couple of spots. If anybody has any questions on that, we can go through those, but it's pretty, it just shows what I just explained. Also, because this will be changing the senator requirements for committees, we decided that this will be a senator only position and a representative will not be able to hold the position if this passes. Are there any questions for our speaker? Senator Harker?
Does the rename of elected senator of the student committee, is that like similar to elected senator of the student organization? Is that the official name of those titles too?
What was that?
Okay, so for the other positions like EBC, SOC, etc., or is the official name of that like elected senator of the student organization committee? Is that, like,
Yes.
similar?
I believe they're referred to as member of the committee because they're closed committees, whereas student entertainment committee is open committee, so technically anybody on it is a member of it. So this just establishes that this person is the elected senator.
Senator David.
Who currently holds that position?
Senator DeLorme.
Are there any more questions for our speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
200 octapps. In regards to that, we had a discussion in polypro and because we decided that 2 senators were not enough to give enough input on whether or not this resolution should go. We mainly just grammar checked it and we decided that it would be gone over more in Senate.
I'm looking for a motion to accept the committee's recommendation. Senator St. Pierre.
I motion to accept the committee's recommendation.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Seeing none, debate. If you go.
So I was the main opposition to this resolution. Over the couple weeks that it's kind of been going through drafting phases. My position on this is generally that I like a larger SEC with a lot of senators participating, a lot of non-senators, just members of the undergraduate student body participating. And I like that over the idea of having one person that we now kind of treat as a position like ABPSC, except they're just not paid. And so we just consider that this is their form of compensation, but we just give them an extra point. So I like to see more students involved, and if we feel that's not gonna be the case this year, then we can go ahead and we can improve this. But if we have a full SEC with lots of hands to help out, then we can have many hands make light work of all the added understanding that SEC will have to cover this year.
Doris Hidalgo.
So I know I don't really get debate or questions or things like that, but I just wanted to put something out for perspective. I've obviously been here more than 20 years and seen a lot of iterations of student entertainment. And I'd like to put out there that as much as we are all very interested in SEC being as large as it possibly can be to help the BPSC and the ABPSC, it's very unusual for that to happen. Unless there is a big name show or concert and then everyone kind of comes out of the woodwork for that. So, given that, because this could potentially be a 2-point instead of a 1-point kind of thing, this might help with some of the events that go on during the year that our BPSC does not get any assistance with. The main reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we partner, student government partners with CSI for events is for labor. It's because we can help with, student entertainment can help with all sorts of events. but nobody comes out to do this. And so our VPSE is out there lifting coolers and moving things around most of the time by himself. And so if this happens, so that, you know, a little additional assistance is required to get the extra point, then they can maybe put that extra assistance out there so the VPSE isn't doing it alone.
Senator Sparks.
A couple things. One, congratulations that there is a clause at the end of this resolution that says this will be subject to review at the end of the spring semester, next semester. Because there was so much contention on this resolution, we decided that it should be reviewed at the end of the year and be reevaluated if we still think that this should be a consistent thing in student government. And also, just because this is now a 2-point thing does not mean that there's any regulations on who can and cannot join the committee. It is just changing the requirements for this one specific elected senator.
Senator St. Pierre.
I think that we should pass this, and I don't think that this really makes the committee. I don't think this goes against the goal of expanding the committee and inviting more people in, because really all I see it as is having like a third person in sort of a leadership role. So I feel like that's just another person that other members of the committee can go to, you know, for anything. You know what I mean? Like someone who just serves a leadership role in that. So I don't think it makes it seem like they're more important than anyone else, but I just think they serve a different role and they can, you know, inherently be more reliable than a regular member. But I don't think it diminishes the importance of any other member of the committee.
Senator Colmore.
I would agree. I would also just say that I think with an increased workload comes, you know, it's not, you know, compensation for this said workload. I think it's already being put in a lot of cases, and it has proven, as I have heard, to be pretty helpful. And I think creating an atmosphere where that is encouraged in the future from an individual that is elected into this position would be really helpful.
I just want to say a few things on the matter. When I came into student entertainment, there was no SEC. It was just me and the VP student entertainment doing it on our own. I brought the initial resolution to put an elected senator on 2 years ago because I think that having somebody on an SEC and having an SEC is absolutely necessary to the longevity of student entertainment. And since then, I've only come to realize how important that elected person is. And I think that we even like lay out some of like the ground things that like they would be expected to do, but just on a basis, I think having that third person there is absolutely essential. But more importantly, I think this policy just becomes even more important over time. To be upfront with you guys, we thought about not hiring an ABPSC, which is a reality that could happen in the future again. And in that case, student entertainment can simply just like not function under one person, which then has an elected member of the SEC on that committee, like as on the committee.
Senator Sparks.
Also, this number is not expected to do the amount of work that an ABPSC would do. Our current ABPSC hall does 10 hours of work each week. This person would not be required to do 10 hours without getting paid. How much work they do is up to the discretion of the vice president of student entertainment, and we left it that way because each week is going to be different. So having a set amount of hours that they have to hit each week gets really complicated. It's very, very simply because on show week they're going to be doing more work than like next week when we don't really have many things going on. So this is not a second ABPSC that are hiring and pretending that they're not actually an ABPSC.
Any new points for debate? President Tripp.
I would also say that if you don't raise this to 2 points, our lovely current elected senator to SEC is still gonna do the same amount of work as if it was 2 points. I think it's worth giving him the 2 points. I would also say that fundamentally, I don't think this will change anything, because I don't see Senator DeLorme revoking all of our other Senate positions unless I'm wrong. So fundamentally, I think this just brings SEC in line with all other executive committees. President's Cabinet is 2 points, EBC is 2 points, SOC is 2 points. We can even have a conversation if we want to bring in a SL senator that's worth 2 points. But what we do know the difference between right now's leadership and student entertainment is that there is a solidified role and path forward. And I'm not saying that VP Fang is behind, but he's actively working on that. And perhaps when that's fleshed out, we can have that conversation too.
Any new points for debate? Senator Sparks.
Yeah, even though it's not gonna change anything, even just like changing the 2 points makes it represent what the amount of roles required for in the first place. So that's the other reasoning.
New points for debate? VP Bone?
Argument, against Keegan's point, of trying to bring it in line is that SEC is fundamentally different from how EBC, Cabinet, and SOC are. It's an open committee. Anybody can join, and that's part of what makes it, a committee that can represent the student body is because it's open to everybody. It's not locked to just 4 senators on it. And so there is a distinction between the two, but also like Keegan said, or President Tripp said, it's not gonna affect our current SEC senator very much, so.
Senator St. Pierre.
I would just say that even though there is a distinction between the different types of executive committees, just the fact that this role is elected by the Senate. For example, any other committee that's not executive committee could chair that committee that's also elected, the same process is worth 2 points. So I feel like that's also bringing out our other elected positions.
Any new points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. Lastly, I will introduce 46S POL 104, an act to amend the standing rules to ensure the representative boards are added to the agenda smoothly without an additional resolution.
Right, so this is gonna be real fast. Last week, we passed the SORP amendment, that our PPSO Thompson wrote. This is not, oh, there it is. There, okay, so this, so the SORP has been amended so that representative boards can be added and removed, as soon as they are recognized or, not recognized. This is just doing the same thing in the standing rules, so it is consistent across our governing documents. It just will add a new clause to one of the sections of standings. It's pretty straightforward.
Are there any questions for our speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation? 200 off pass. Senator Moore.
I move to approve the committee's recommendation.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Seeing none, debate. Seeing none, all in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. We will now be returning to unfinished business with the cabinet veto of 46S POL 85.
Okay, I'm gonna do a background about cabinet vetoes before we get into this. So the last cabinet veto that took place was in 2023. So that's been 2 years. Before that, it was 3 years prior. So cabinet vetoes don't happen very often. So we are in, and as somebody who really loves this organization and as someone who remembers having my first cabinet veto as a senator, now being the president of the cabinet that vetoed, I find it super exciting. So that's something that is a legitimate use of power between the executive and the legislative. What that does and how that works is that somebody, a member of the cabinet, has to move to veto. The person who motioned to do that was VP Bohm. It then needed to be seconded. The second was from VP Lehman, I believe, or yes. It was then voted on. It came down to, I think it was 8-3, and the rest were abstained because they did not vote. So split hair had to be 2/3 to pass there. That was the threshold to pass there. In order to reconcile that, it then comes back to the General Student Senate, as we're all here. You all read my email, where the Senate is able to consider it once again, despite being vetoed, in order to pass as is. It needs a 2/3 vote to overrule. That vote will be a roll call vote. Understood? So if in any capacity the resolution is amended, it will then be considered as a brand new resolution, and it will go back to cabinet once again for approval, where it could be vetoed again or passed. So that is how cabinet vetoes work. And I feel like people in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, but the arguments did not change much from Senate to cabinet. So we're kind of rehashing the conversation, which is great and fine. And I expect all of you to approach that seriously and with the same amount of scrutiny as if it was coming through for the first time. I have an argument. I don't have much of an argument, but I'll save that for whenever we can go into debate.
Are there any questions for the speaker? VP Thompson.
Sending back to committee an option?
Sending back as a committee, sending back to committee is not an option, unless it is amended.
Any more questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is,
No, we're just straight into discussion.
all right, discussion? Seeing none, debate? Senator Sparks?
So just to recap, the debate was whether or not title should be mandatory because, and then the fact that if you don't write in the title, it would technically go back to the policy and procedure committee based off of how this resolution is written. That was the main qualm with this. I think there are a couple options we could do. I think that it's fine just to pass as is. I also think that we can amend it just to change policy and procedure committee to the relevant committee that it goes through, because all resolutions have to go through a committee. And there are also a couple other options regarding the whole EBC arguments, but there is not a right answer to this, and I think that people should really look at it.
Any more points for debate? Senator Ricker.
Okay, so I wasn't here last week, so I'm just kind of like napping, but when it comes to like making sure that resolutions have titles, would it make sense to make sure the title is there before it even reaches us here in the Senate in the first place? That way we won't have the issue, we'll have to go back to committee because it wouldn't have reached here in the first place.
So this would require it to have a title before it comes to the Senate. That's how it's currently written.
VP Bowman.
Just as a reminder, my main argument against this was that, for one, me and my committee have been able to send the most resolutions through to the Senate. This would mean that all resolutions, financial, meaning also the consent agenda, need to be given a title before they need to be considered by Senate. I feel like most of the reasons why it could benefit in any way are kind of moot. For EBC and the financial side, we have a pretty good way of knowing where all our funding requests come from and organizing them. And so this was meant to increase organization. It kind of just makes it so I organize it, give the title that is the resolution number, and it's kind of redundant and doesn't have a point when applying to me. And so my main stance was that it probably shouldn't apply to me, but it makes the most sense to apply towards polygraph, but even then, not all policy actions that we take are the most important. If the idea was that it has a keyword search functionality, everything's gonna be stored in Google Drive. Google Drive has a keyword search within documents, not just within the title of the document. And so I felt like it kind of doesn't achieve the goal that it's meant to achieve, and it's not a fully fledged resolution.
Any more points for debate? Senator Chapin?
I have next. So IOTA is very specifically to, and I quote, enhance searchability, record keeping, and accessibility, and as an added bonus to be fun. That is the third whereas. The fact that we have record keeping problems and have, to my knowledge, lost some of the standing committee founding documents proves the necessity of enhanced record keeping, which this bill does in fact seek to address. The title line itself will be optional. That is in the resolve number 1. And I know that this was brought up that could be amended to go to the relevant committee with, and not specifically Poly Pro, which I personally don't have, but that's a problem with. But the main issue that I have with opposition to this bill is that this bill requires almost nothing of senators actually drafting resolutions. And even if it did, cause all it does is require them to just title their bill. That in and of itself is not necessarily a gargantuan task. It's harder to draft the bill than it is to come up with a name of it. And if you're not creative, just send it to the relevant committee to give it a name. And if you'd rather not send it to the relevant committee to give it a name because you want it to actually just get to Senate first, just give it a name. If it's the same thing over and over, give it a name, give it a date, give it the semester. If you're lazy, give it a boring name. If you want to have fun with it, give it a fun name. But this is not that much work, is the big problem I have with opposition to this bill in the first place.
So I am very much against this resolution as it stands. I think it needs a lot of amendments and I think President Tripp has the amendments already made up, if I'm not
Let me
mistaken.
debate, I'll get there.
Okay, but I would strongly encourage a senator to do whatever it takes to make the amendments. I think that as this thing stands, there is no language on that helps prove any of these points, in my opinion. When I can title a bill just like blank space and a period, it doesn't help the searchability, it doesn't do anything other, but that still counts as a name. I think there needs to be language that includes how a bill is named and like the wording that can be used. And I would strongly encourage pursuing whatever process it is to get those amendments on this.
Senator Sparks.
Back to the point that Senator Chapin made, the losing committee resolutions is because half of we're slowly putting all of our policies into Google Drive. All of them are printed out and filed in a cabinet in paper form. We just don't have the digital resolutions. So this is helping with digital organization and not necessarily paper organization. Also, I have a couple of proposed amendments that I'm gonna drop in the chat for everybody to look at. These aren't the only options, they're just a couple things that I thought up based off of the argument that we made. There we go, should be in the chat right now. They're just, it's more in depth on what types of titles that will be used. Is anybody that's looking at that and make a motion to amend that?
While people are looking at what Senator Sparks dropped into the chat, President Tripp.
I would like full attention
Okay.
on that big. Okay. So I think that if we want to make an amendment that will outline what titles should and to avoid, I think as VP Lehman outside of Senate aptly put it, malicious compliance. I think it's a little disheartening that we even have to have that conversation. I don't think that somebody who took this organization seriously would submit something that's space dot and as a title, but sure, I think that is an amendment that makes sense to change this. My pitch for titles, and honestly, I'm a little bit taken aback by how controversial this has been so far. But I thought the only way, and I'm gonna do one pitch, and then it's up to you guys, was to visualize it. So I just sent you a doc, if you could open that in your email. May I? So this is like literally the concept. And frankly, unless there was any push away from VP Bohm, I mean, I would still do this, but what I'm trying to point out to you is that students don't and aren't in understanding of our lingo and the jargon that goes into student government. I think that you can all remember your first day in the Senate. I move this, motion to that. It's confusing. The general student body isn't going to take time to understand or digest what that would be without iota. That is how I would have to put that onto a website. Imagine an Instagram post that said, what did we pass in a week? What would you want to see as a student who's not involved? What would get the point across to you as a student not involved? More so. On the website, the way that I would do this is that all of them would be located somewhere else with their full resolutions. We can do it that way. And again, likely, if we were doing posts, I would just format it like this anyway. We can do it that way if we want, but frankly, I don't think it's very much to ask for that to be the case. It would really just be an additional thing. I think that it doesn't even need to outline, I mean, if they want to go further, like the cabinet policy update spring, the title isn't supposed to tell you everything about it. It's supposed to be the flash thing that you then use to go and find more about it if you want to know more about it. I think saying something, Society of Physics Students Conference travel request makes sense, will make sense to people. They know that we funded what? The Society of Physics for a student conference. They will know that. They will be able to digest that. This is something that we have been working on for years on making it so that students understand what the day-to-day, the week-to-week of Student Senate is. I don't think this changes anything fundamental. It just makes it easier for everyone moving forward to have something specific to put on things. I think that we can pass even an amendment that if we want to standardize EBC titles, or if we want to standardize titles generally, we can do that. But again, I don't think it's too much to ask for all of our resolutions to be titled. I really don't. And I think that it is in the students' interest and in the interest of transparency and understanding, especially when we just talked about, especially with the budget earlier today, how funding is the most important thing that we're doing this year. It is the biggest thing that we do every year. It's the thing that passes the most bills. Why wouldn't you want to tell the students in a way that they would understand? I digress.
People.
Part of my feeling with this is that if people are interested enough and knowing what we do in Senate, they talk to us. We're senators, we're here, we're involved. And if they're not interested enough in that, they're not interested enough in Senate. And so even though they may not be able to dissect what an Act 2 means, you can. And who are they gonna reach out to? It's gonna be you. You're in all their classes, you reach out to them, you're a face they can see, and if not, that's an issue. All of our senators are supposed to be the faces that our undergraduate student body can see, because you pass resolutions that they want to see or that you think they want to see. So if you're out of touch with the student body, then that's an issue beyond this. But we're also we're also an organization that President Tripp likes to say that we're living and breathing. And part of that is I feel that we can work on practices and not off of policy all the time. And so we can have our DOC just give this is what we did, not this is what we passed. If we say this is what we passed, then we have to list it by whatever credentials we say that we organized it by. But if we say this is what we did, then we can say we passed this. We passed funding for physics to go to XYZ, or for this club to do that. It doesn't have to be written in policy. When it's required, it has to be written in policy. It has to become very robotic and bureaucratic. That's what policy is. It's bureaucracy. And so if we want to keep it so that it's open to students, then that's what it has to be, open to students, and then through practice, which is the most living and breathing that we can actually apply to our organization.
Senator Elliott?
I think every step we can take to make student government easier for the entire student body to understand is a good step to make. I feel like having a simple naming convention for very common sorts of proposals is not unreasonable. And I think we should pass this how it's written without any amendments.
Senator Calvin?
To counter some previous arguments made by previous speakers, I think that the assumption that the onus is on the senators in every aspect to answer questions is kind of unreasonable for the student body. We should be setting up our systems so that we do not need to answer every single question or explain every single thing. Everything we should do should be transparent enough for everyone to understand what is going on, because we are playing with their money, their support, their student government. We're playing with what we represent them to do, and they should be able to be as an active participant as they want to be, rather than required to reach out to members of the student government every time they have a question. If this is a way that we can start to approach that and be more accessible, I don't see anything wrong with that. We talk about accessibility a lot on campus. We talk about accessibility on the roads. We talk about accessibility of the sidewalks and all of these things. But I think that we often forget that another major part of this accessibility is accessibility of information, not only just the access of it, but the ease in which you're able to read and digest said information. And by introducing titles, that creates a system that students are able to look at our documents, find what they want to know a lot faster than the current process. And also a lot less intimidating. When I look at this and act to allocate funds for the physics students and all of these words, that's intimidating, that's scary. When I look to the left and I see 6, 7 words, I didn't need to make that joke. I just want that to be on the record, I didn't want to do that. That's a lot more digestible and that's a lot more.
Senator Collmore?
I would agree. I think that anything that we can do to make it easier is better. I would disagree in the fact that every single person in this room is somebody, one of those 4,000 or 5,000 undergraduate students knows someone in here. I do not think that's true. And I think limiting us to the idea that, oh, they can just go find someone they know or, like that, I feel like instead of them having to try to find an email or going on the page and like, okay, who are they gonna do? I'll contact President Tripp.
I'll report an email, I must.
On the website page, but you know what I mean. In this case, they could go, oh, I'll look on the Instagram or I'll look on the website and say, oh, they passed the Society of Physics Students Conference. Not they allocate funds to the Society of Physics Students for flights, conference registration, for attendance, for the blah, blah, whatever, it goes on and on and on. And seeing every one of those, I like that as a political science student. Not everybody is a political science student who likes reading through arbitrary bill language.
VP Lehman?
Again, I just want to reiterate, if you guys can please look at the proposed amendments that Senator Spark dropped in the chat and please consider them. There's no language on this resolution about what the title can be, and I could name it any resolution that I bring forward, whatever I want, which serves no purpose to anybody, especially if it's just a period. It makes it harder to search and it defeats this entire purpose. I think there needs to be language on what the Act 2 and what the title of the policy can be.
I'm now looking for new points of debate. VP Thompson.
I think we've talked a lot about the merit of titles. I think titles can be good. I don't think that resolutions about titles should go through polypro. I don't think that makes very much sense. I think it should be a respective committee. So I don't think BBC resolutions should be going through polypro, just at all.
VP Fang?
Yeah, I want to echo what Senator Thompson said. VP Thompson said, I have also spent a lot of time debating on whether or not titles are worth it or make it actually easier, but again, that's not my issue with the bill at hand. It is, as VP Thompson said, those 2 glaring points. That one, right now, as much as we hope that it won't be the case, whoever writes the resolution can name a resolution whatever they want, and it would have to come all the way to Senate and spend time amending that title to something better. Or if they don't, it sets polypro as a unnecessary and, in my opinion, improper check and balance. The whole reason why committees can draft their own resolutions, why resolutions go through academic affairs and can go through services, instead of all having to go through polypro, is because those are resolutions related to those committees. And it makes no sense to have polypro as a check and balance, even if we would like to hope that that's never used.
Senator Sparks?
I would like to move to amend the resolution to change the Act 2 line of the change Policy and Procedure Committee to Relevant Committee.
Second.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. President Tripp?
Upon passage of this amendment, this bill becomes a brand new bill and will return to cabinet. That's it. That's just that.
Any more discussion? What did you vote?
Changing the Act 2 doesn't actually changes to a bill. Changes only happen in the results section. The Act 2 is a general statement that tends to act as an identifier for what Senate bill does, whereas the statements or reasoning for the bill resolves any actual changes that happen to a bill.
If language changes on a resolution, it becomes a new resolution in the same way that food trucks.
It is, but changing the act does not change how the bill is, that goes to our statement resolved, which is not statement resolved how it actually takes.
Correct. If it went into place, it would have been optional. You're correct. If it was passed as is.
Any more discussion? Senator Chapin?
Point of information, if this passes, are we still gonna be talking about this and adding more to this and still discussing this, or do we have to wait a whole other week to keep going?
If this amendment passes, we continue discussion as the full bill with an amendment.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, debate. Senator Ricker?
So in practice, how often would bills actually send back the void vote? Maybe just amend it as a Senate appeal and avoid the in-case time back up.
Who's the question directed towards?
I guess, so those folks, I guess, but in practice, how often would this actually result in bills being pushed back to polyvote when we can just fix it and amend it in the Senate as a group? Or if there's issues related to titles.
The only time that a bill would go through polypro is if the author chose not to put a title on the bill, and that's how it's written. And again, I understand the concept of check and balance, and that it has to go through polypro, but the only jurisdiction that polypro would have over the resolution is the title itself.
Thing?
Point of privilege, can we get the resolution back up?
Senator St. Pierre?
I think disappointed some candidate, I wanted to ask him a question. Information, okay, what information?
Inquiry.
Were you asking, if it's gonna be sent to the Senate and then we send it back to polypro? Because as far as I know, it won't make it to the Senate, if it doesn't have a title. So we wouldn't be juggling it back. See, that's about it.
B.B. Thompson?
Looking through the wording, I don't actually see anywhere in the actual resolve that says what happens if there isn't a title. There's nothing about sending back to polypro or anything.
B.B. Ball?
To Vice President Thompson's point, I feel like that just continues to the fact that this is kind of an unfinished bill. And it should either be killed or amended and then sent back to polypro so they can work through it. Because the resolve sections don't actually list what they're supposed to, and some of the whereas sections need to be removed in the resolve, like saying that an author line is not mandatory, is in the whereas and not in resolve, which it should be in the resolve. And so there's just changes that need to be made all throughout the bill. And if we pass an unfinished bill, that's just very poor form for us as an organization.
Senator Sparks?
The offer line is non-mandatory.
Correct.
Right now, it would be.
That was never like brought up at the contention.
Any more questions for debate? B.B. Ball? Okay. Any more points for debate on the amendment? Okay.
Point of privilege, if the Senate agrees that this bill needs to be changed, then what you would need to do is accept this or some amendment so that it can be sent back to committee, because if this resolution stays as it is, it has to either pass or fail.
Any more points for debate on the amendment? President Tripp?
I would support its return to committee. However, yeah, sure. I think that the author and sponsored line is good and should be put into place as soon as possible. So like if you could strike literally everything else, it becomes a brand new bill, and then everything can be reintroduced as its own bill through polypro that is just introduction of titles and exclusively introduction of titles, if that's how the Senate wants to do it. That said, the changes that I intended to make are listed in it. So the required was changed in Senate, if you recall. So the original bill didn't say required at the top, and it was all written as optional, and the Act 2 was optional. And the discussion that was asked, should it be optional or required? The Senate moved to make it required in the Act 2 only, and then it passed. So that is how that has fallen out of alignment. And that's it.
Any more debate on the amendment? Senator St. Pierre.
Just go forward and pass this amendment and continue the discussion after that.
Senator Sparks.
Motion to previous.
In a second.
Hearing a second, that's adopted, discussion,
No, move to previous is you immediately go to,
It's yes.
voting on the motion previous, yes. Oh, all those in favor of moving previous? Previous means that we are ending debate and then we will go back to immediately voting on this amendment. And it needs to be stop debate now. So if you are in favor of stopping debate, raise your hand. All those opposed? All abstaining, same clear majority, that passes. We are now voting on the motion to amend. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Same clear majority, that passes. Now, debate on the resolution as a whole.
the change made was what?
The act to now read required titling either written by either author or relevant committee.
E.B. Thompson.
This bill is not finished, as VP Bohm said. The polypro chair said that they would like it sent back to committee. I think a senator should motion sends back to committee right now.
Senator Demore.
Motion to send this bill back. Second.
Hearing a second, we'll now enter discussion. Seeing none, debate. Oh, Senator Sparks.
The polypro chair did not say that she would like this. Did you not?
Like 5 minutes? No, I did. I said I would be okay with it. If that's how you wanna handle it. My apologies. I think it should pass as is. That's been my take for the day.
Are we in debate or discussion?
Sorry,
Are we in debate or discussion?
we're in debate. Senator Sparks.
I don't think this should get sent back. I think that we should add the second. I think that we should add if the second. Proposed amendment that I have on there and then pass it.
Senator Cowan.
I think it's been made clear a lot of times by a lot of people on how we all feel about this. And I also think it's been made very clear by the committee chair herself that this is not something that the committee feels should be sent back for re-examination because they felt solid enough to put this before us. And I think we should just go for it.
Senator Ricker.
Question of course.
Senator Britton.
I think clearly the Senate does not feel that this is solid enough how it is, and this would give space for those senators who wanted to contribute thoughts to go to polypro and iron it out there instead of at Senate, so.
Senator. E.B. Baum.
So you know, it's mostly execs and people who don't have a vote in Senate who feel that this should be changed in some form. I feel like sending back to polypro gives a chance for execs, talk with the polypro chair, have amendments voiced there and voted on. So we don't have to keep on using up the time of all of our senators here, since it's already after 8 o'clock and almost 8:30, and so unless it be handled outside of regular Senate hours.
President Trent.
Currently, the only changes being made, if this was passed as is that there will be a center, bold, and italicized title below the heading as written in the template. And furthermore, authors and below that sponsors. Those are the only two changes that are being made. They'll simply introduce the line item that it doesn't even behold anybody to using it. That was just changed again. It would need to be changed as required all the way through it. But this would just introduce the two things. And if further legislation wanted to be introduced, that would tie up what can be in a title or the like requirements around it, that can be, that's fair, but the two changes are in bold, and I think they need to be scrolled to so that people can see what's being written into policy, which is none of this.
Any more points to debate for referring this back to committee?
But happy with however the Senate wants to handle it.
Before passing this, we should pass it right and in full, so it actually knows what we wanted to do. Passing policy that we then were just want to change the next meeting or the meeting after that is just very poor form for Senate, and that's how we run into issues that we've been dealing with for the last 3 years while I've been in Senate, where we clean up unfinished policies, and I'd like to avoid that in the future.
Senator Ricker?
When we consider the searchability of those, I don't think it's actually a bad idea to clarify our next meeting, like clear off whatever. Because like if we, as it seems right now, it feels like it's almost like two separate kind of things going on here. So if we pass this now and then something the next week, it makes it easier historically to go back and see where it comes from and why it's the way it's the way it is.
Also, if we pass this now, it is nothing to clear up the searchability and identifiability of how bills act and how they're passed by passing 2 resolutions that are all acting towards one common goal. And if we want to make it so that it's easier for people to identify what we're doing, we should really pass resolutions that are intelligible of what they do once and have it be done.
Any more points for debate for referring them back to committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? I apologize, can we redo that? All those in favor, raise your hand high. 1, 2, high. 1, 2. Okay, all those opposed? All those abstaining? 8, 7, 3. This need a 2/3 majority? Nope. Seeing a majority in the affirmative, that passes. So that is referred back to committee.
New business still.
New business is over. Well, unfinished business is over and new business is already over. Seeing no main motion or executive session, we'll now move into special orders and announcements where any member of UMSG may address the GS for no more than 5 minutes. Senator Collins.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a performative mail competition, but at UMaine, Triota, the WGS Honor Society and Service Organization, is going to be hosting one on Friday, 12 p.m. on the mall. There is an entry fee if you want to participate, but if you win, you get half of the overall pot of money, and Triota gets the other half. So either way, maybe you lose $5, but it goes to a good cause.
PP thing.
My laptop is dead right now, but the second I plug it in, I will drop the current draft for the leadership scholarship application in the Senate chat because I'd like to have senators' opinions on it. You guys can either respond in that thread about what you like or would like to change, or I will come in front of Senate and present it and maybe ask you guys here and drive a meeting. Thank you.
Senator Sparks.
Polypro happens at 5 on Wednesdays. I feel that some people should show up.
President Tripp.
Just a reminder about if you want to be nominated for the conduct board, let me know. Also the amnesty policy that you have to review or should review, cabinet tomorrow morning, 8:30 for our those of us who are new. I'll see you there. There is a Google Meet in the Google Calendar invite you have all been sent. If that doesn't work for you, let me know. That is how I'm gonna have you access cabinet. So it's in the Google Calendar link. So it's never been in the space, but if you want me to drop it every morning in the space, I can do that too. Sure.
DOC.
Yeah, so if any of you are involved in clubs on campus and you want us to post something about it, please reach out to me. We're trying to do club spotlights a lot more this year to highlight where our money is actually going and what it's doing. So please reach out.
Sorry, one last thing, leave me your binders if you're not getting the new documents I'm printing tomorrow, thank you.
Any more orders or announcements? I have one. I'd like to remind everyone of the business casual dress code. That does include you made merch, but that also means business casual you made merch. Also, for my senators who are older senators, I'd like to remind you of the senator check-ins that you've been reminded of. And for the new senators, please look through the Senate